Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we are diving into episode 8 of our PMP Exam Strategy series, and we're talking about principle number 8, build quality into processes and deliverables. Now this one's a real game changer. It's one of the most practical and honestly cost-saving principles out there, because it's all about getting ahead of problems, not just getting better at cleaning them up. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to kick things off with the official meaning, then get into why this principle is so strategically important. After that, we'll unpack the core framework and give you a practical playbook you can actually use. And of course, we'll get you prepped for the exam by spotting those tricky distractors and locking in a mastery strategy. Let's get right into it. So what do we really mean when we say build quality in? Well, this principle is about a huge shift in mindset. You can see it right here on the slide. For years, the old way was all about detection. You build the thing, and then at the very end, you have a QA team that tries to find all the mistakes. We're flipping that on its head. This is all about prevention. It's about designing your processes from the very beginning so that defects are hard, if not impossible, to even create. The goal isn't to be the world's best bug finder. It's to not have the bugs in the first place. And wow, this slide right here, this iceberg, perfectly nails why that shift is so critical. Think about it. The little tip of the iceberg you see above the water, those are the defects you actually catch during inspection. It's what's visible. But the real danger, the massive thing that can sink your entire project, is lurking right below the surface. That's the cost of nonconformance. We're talking about all the rework, the wasted materials, the warranty claims, and in the agile world, that killer technical debt that just keeps piling up. The PMP exam hammers this home because they want to know you get it. Prevention isn't just a nice idea. It's a massive financial imperative. Okay, so how do we actually build quality in? How do we make this happen? Well, we can lean on this quality integration framework, which is built on 5 super important pillars. First, and we've already talked about this, is that core idea of prevention over inspection. Second, having a rock-solid definition of done, or DOD. Everybody on the team has to be on the exact same page about what finished actually looks like. Third, and this is a subtle but crucial one, is understanding the difference between fit for purpose and fit for use. We'll dig into that in a second. Fourth, fostering a real quality culture where it's everyone's responsibility. And finally, number 5, continuous improvement. Always looking for ways to get better through things like retrospectives. Let's double click on that third pillar, because this is where a lot of projects get it wrong. You see these 2 circles, right? Fit for use means the product is technically solid. It works. It doesn't have bugs. It's reliable. But fit for purpose asks a different question. Does it actually solve the stakeholder's problem? Does it meet their real need? See, you can have one without the other. You can build the most technically perfect, bug-free app in the world, but if it doesn't do what the user actually needs it to do, it's not a quality product. Real excellence, the kind that delivers real value, lives right in that sweet spot in the middle, where it's both technically sound and solves the right problem. Okay, that's the theory. But how do you actually do this day in and day out? Here's your playbook, a simple 5-step cycle. Step 1, define early. From day 1, at the project kickoff, you establish those quality standards and lock down that definition of done. No ambiguity. Step 2, integrate daily. Quality isn't a phase at the end. It's something you weave into everything you do every single day. Step 3, empower the team. You make it clear that quality is not just the QA person's job, it's everybody's job. Step 4, review and adapt. Use daily stand-ups, demos, and retrospectives to constantly check your work and make adjustments. And finally, step 5, which holds it all together. Balance speed and quality. You have to resist that temptation to cut corners on quality just to meet a deadline, because all you're doing is creating that hidden iceberg of technical debt that will sink you later. Now let's talk exam tactics. This is so important. The exam will try to trick you, and you need to know how to spot the traps. This table lays it out perfectly. The trap answer will be something like, perform a final inspection. But the truth, the PMI mindset, is to design the process for prevention. The trap is gold plating, adding extra features that the customer didn't ask for because you think they're cool. The truth is delivering exactly what was agreed upon, no more, no less. The trap is thinking of quality as some separate department's problem. The real truth, it's about fostering a culture where every single person on the team owns it. Burn these differences into your brain. So you're in the exam and you get one of those classic situational questions. A defect has been found. What should the project manager do first? Here's your 4-step strategy. First, always look for an answer related to defining standards. Did we have a clear definition of done? Second, if defects are popping up, your first instinct should be to audit the process, not blame the person. What in our process is allowing these defects to get through? Third, find the answer that integrates quality into the daily workflow. And fourth, always lean towards answers that favor continuous improvement. But if you remember just one thing, let it be this pro tip right here. The best answer, the PMI answer, almost always focuses on fixing the process, not just patching up the individual product. Phew, that was a lot, but so important. And speaking of important, next time we're going to be tackling a really juicy one. Principle number 9, navigate complexity. We're going to get into how you, as a project manager, can steer your team through the fog of uncertainty and all those tangled challenges that define modern projects. You won't want to miss it. So if we boil everything we talked about down to one core idea, it's this: prevention always beats correction. Always. It is always cheaper, faster, and just plain better to build quality into your processes from the very start than to try and inspect it in at the end. That's your mantra for the exam and for every project you run from here on out. Hey, if this breakdown helped you out, make sure you're following so you don't miss the rest of the series. We'll see you next time.
Learning reinforcement.
To master the 8th principle of project management, building quality into processes and deliverables, we have to look at how modern engineering actually works. Many project managers fall into the trap of treating quality as a final testing phase. They build the product, send it down the line, and wait for an inspector to find the flaws right before delivery. PMI requires a complete reversal of this mindset. Instead of detecting defects after they occur, your job is to design a workflow that prevents those defects from happening in the first place. To achieve that level of prevention, quality has to be actively engineered into the daily processes, the team culture, and the actual deliverables from day one. Transitioning from a final stage quality policeman to a front-end quality engineer is the foundational mark of a mature project manager. This concept is tested heavily across both the process and business environment domains on the 2026 PMP exam. The core PMI mindset you must adopt here is simple: prevention over inspection. If you fail to engineer that quality early, you inevitably degrade the overall business value of the final deliverable. In agile and hybrid environments, cutting corners on quality creates what we call technical debt. It is a compounding burden of broken code or messy processes that actively slows down all future development. Mastering this principle is your primary lever to protect a project's timeline, its budget, and its long-term viability. PMI uses a specific financial metric to quantify poor quality: the cost of non-conformance. This metric totals up the combined expenses of rework, discarded scrap, warranty claims, and the technical debt we just discussed. This chart shows the cost of non-conformance over a project's lifecycle. You can see a clear exponential upward curve as time progresses from day one to post-release. The financial reality here is stark. A defect caught and prevented on day one has a negligible cost. But if that exact same defect escapes into the post-release phase, the cost to fix it multiplies exponentially. If quality isn't built into the daily iterations of an agile project, this escalating area under the curve represents your accumulating technical debt. Investing your resources into early process quality is an economic mandate to prevent these compounding costs from crippling the later stages of your lifecycle. To build quality in from the start, you have to establish objective, measurable standards at the very beginning of the project. The primary tool you will use to standardize these expectations is the definition of done. This is a shared, objective checklist proving to the team that a piece of work genuinely meets your quality baseline. Quality requires delivering on two distinct axes of value. We separate these into fit for use and fit for purpose. Fit for use means the deliverable meets all technical standards and is free of bugs. Fit for purpose means the deliverable actually solves the stakeholder's problem and delivers real business value. A product is high quality only if it satisfies both technical perfection and stakeholder utility. A flawless product that nobody needs is still a failure. How do you operationalize these definitions into the team's daily workflow? You must integrate quality activities into everyday tasks rather than isolating them as a final phase. This creates a quality culture where the entire team takes ownership of the output. To maintain this, you implement continuous improvement. By using retrospectives and lessons learned, you constantly audit your workflow and raise your process standards. It is your responsibility to balance the speed of delivery against the strictness of these quality standards to prevent technical debt from piling up. If a final deliverable fails inspection, the root cause is a broken process. Your primary lever for ensuring quality is continuously auditing that process itself. When you sit down for the PMP exam, you will face several cognitive traps regarding quality. Watch out for any option that relies heavily on final inspection as your primary control tool. Another trap is treating quality as a one-time end-of-phase activity rather than a continuous daily process. You also need to identify gold plating, the act of adding unrequested features to exceed expectations. This wastes project resources and directly violates PMI standards. Resist the temptation to sacrifice quality just to meet a tight budget or schedule constraint. Doing so guarantees a massive spike in the cost of nonconformance later on. Never select an answer that assumes quality is solely the responsibility of a separate QA team instead of the whole project team. Any action prioritizing end-stage policing over delivery or siloed responsibility is an exam distractor. Eliminate it. Let's look at a clear strategy for tackling situational questions that ask what the project manager should do first when a defect is found. This decision tree maps your response. First, verify if quality standards and the definition of done were defined early. Second, audit the process. If the product is failing, the process is broken. Third, ensure quality activities are pushed back into the daily workflow rather than relying on end-stage testing. Fourth, prioritize continuous improvement and defect prevention over temporary band-aids. Prevention always beats correction. If this breakdown helped you, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the rest of the 2026 PMP series. Next time, in episode 9, we will cover principle number 9, navigate complexity. Until then, remember the rule: fix the process and the product will fix itself.